Okay, yesterday we had started doing equations, and today we're going to continue that. Yesterday we focused just on adding and subtracting equations. Today we're going to do multiplying and dividing equations. So what we want to remember is what we said yesterday, that when you're solving equations, we always do the opposite operation on both sides. And so that still applies with multiplying and dividing. It's no different. So I'm going to start by putting my line down to remind me where my sides are. And I'm going to do the opposite. Now, when these are written next to each other, that means multiplying. So I'm going to divide. Now, when we do division with algebra, when we're solving equations, we always are going to write that like a fraction. So we're going to put the line underneath like a fraction, and we're dividing by 5 on both sides. That's the only way it'll show division. We're not going to use any other division symbols. That's it. Okay? And so on the left side, I see 5 over 5 is 1. 1 times anything is that other number. So 1 times x would be x. And then 70 divided by 5 is 14. Now, if I don't know that off the top of my head, that's not a problem. I'm just going to go over to the side here and go ahead and do my division. And I will see that 5 does go into 70 exactly 14 times. And that's fine. Sometimes you're going to have to do that. And that's okay. Go off to the side, do your division, come back, put your answer down. Then, of course, we got to remember that we always show a check. And so, again, I'm going to take my answer that I get, and I'm going to plug it back up here, plug it in for the x. And then, so in this case, what I have is 14 times 5. And that, of course, is 20. And 5 plus 2 is 7. And that's what I was supposed to get, so I know my answer is right. So it's the exact same as yesterday. Opposite operation, both sides. Show your check. It's just we're doing it with multiplying and dividing now. Now you could also have negatives. Then we just have to be careful, make sure we're using our integer rules on these. And so, again, it's a multiplying. So I'm going to divide by a negative 3. Divide that by negative 3. Divide that by negative 3. Again, that's 1. So 1 times y gives me y. A positive divided by a negative is a negative. 24 divided by 3 is 8. And then if I go to do check, that would just be a negative 3 times a negative 8. And I know the two negatives give me a positive. And 8 times 3 is 24. That's what I wanted. So I know my answer is right. I'm good. We can do the same thing for dividing. Okay. I'm still going to start by putting my line down here for the two sides. Because this is division in the problem, that tells me I'm going to do the opposite, or I'm going to multiply. Now, when I'm doing multiplying, I don't like to use the time sign because that looks like an X. So we're going to avoid that. And I don't like using the dot to show multiplying because if we get lazy, it can look like a decimal or a negative sign. And so I prefer to avoid that. And so the other way that we can show multiplying is by just putting it in parentheses. Then they're next to each other. That means I'm multiplying. So if I do that over here, I also need to do it on this side. Now again, this is just like the multiplication ones. I end up with 4 over 4, which is 1. 1 times c is c. 13 times 4 is 52. And again, if I don't know that off the top of my head, I come off to the side. 4 by 3 is 12. 4 and 1 is 5. Now I can come back and put my answer down. Then again, I have to make sure that I check. So I'm going to plug this up here, and I'm going to do 52 divided by 4. I know 4 is going to go into that once and into 12 3 times. And so I do get 13. That's what I wanted. So I know my answer, 52, is correct. And the last one here, again, with negatives, still going to do it the same way. So I'm going to multiply, but this time I'm going to be multiplying by a negative 6. Okay? So again, negative 6 over negative 6 is 1. So I still have f. When I multiply two negatives together, my answer is positive So this is positive 66. And then I plug that into check, and I do 66 divided by a negative 6. I know a negative and a positive, when I divide, give me a negative. And it's going to go in exactly 11 times. So that's what I wanted, so I know my answer's right. So again, every time, just like yesterday, you want to make sure that you're showing the work, the opposite operation on both sides. Be careful with the integer rules if you have negatives in there. Get your answer, and then do your check so that you know you're right.